In recent videos, we've had a really good look at the release pattern in the golf swing. We've been to see Dr. Mark Bull to get his views. We've looked at the Pete Cowan model versus a more traditional approach. And if there's one thing that's really clear, and that is advanced and elite level golfers do not move the club through impact in the same way that obviously beginners and more high handicap players do. And it's not just a case of practice, it's conceptually very different. So in this video, I'm going to take you through a really simple drill that will help you help move you down that kind of progression from basics to mastery. And we'll see in the process whether we can get more compression, get you moving your body better, controlling the face, and ultimately being a better mover and a better ball striker. Quick recap then. When we're learning golf, we are generally taught the simplest model possible, and that would make sense, wouldn't it? It's a tough game to learn, and that simple model is what many people would call the traditional type of golf swing, and that's the swing where we kind of swoosh the arms as we turn the body, and we go from this kind of L shape, swoosh, and an L shape on this side. It's also learnt with drills like the tennis racket drill, which is a super drill to kind of learn that pattern. It helps us feel the club swinging from the inside and the arm and the body kind of turning over to square the face. And one of my favorites is the circle drill. So that's where we teach that pattern by making circles at chest height. And the great thing about that drill is it really connects us to the whole motion without having to think about all the parts. And as I say, that is a great way to go. And in my coaching trip this week, I've been teaching I've been working with the higher handicaps in exactly that same manner. But there is an issue there, that all of those drills encourage this. It encourages the club to come back directly in front of you. Now, when you look at high handicap golfers, and many of my students, if you were to freeze frame their impact, it looks like the club has just come back to where it started. So they sort of come back to the ball. You'd find it difficult to distinguish between whether that's their setup or whether it's their impact. Now, that is not a mistake you would make with an elite level player. Elite level players would be more rotated. They'd probably be a little bit lower. And then there's a whole lot of change going through the body. Now, relating that back to our circle drill, you know, if we're swinging like this, then no matter how fast we kind of move the body, if we're also throwing the arms and throwing the head, we're always going to return back in the same place. And it feels intuitive, but it's not how advanced golfers move. So if the basic pattern is this kind of circular motion where the arms swing out in front of you and we use the right arm, the trail arm, to turn over, is there a better way? Here's your challenge. Can you do that exercise, do it in its basic form, and just return to impact? So impact looks like setup, arms have come out straight, and the club is right in front of your chest. And then, having recognized that, let's see if we can do it in a more advanced way. So a more advanced way would be to return the club so that you have got the handle leaning forwards. We know we need that for impact, and the face is square. So oftentimes when people lean the handle forwards, they don't rotate the arms enough to square the face. So that's going to be really key, isn't it? Can we get shaft lean, a square face? Can we get the chest more rotated? But crucially, can we do all that and keep the right arm bent? Not sort of forcibly in and pulled in or any of that stuff, just staying slightly bent. And you'll see there, it's actually, the trail arm is a little bit under the lead arm. And that is how, if there's one commonality with all the kind of advanced release patterns, it would look far more like that than it would do that kind of swooshy pattern of the basic model. So how do I do that? I would just have a go at it initially, because if you can really overthink this stuff. But essentially, as we're swinging the club around, we're turning our body and we're letting the lead arm rotate. And as we turn our body, ultimately that is what's going to square the club, instead of the trail arm climbing over the lead arm and getting this kind of throwing motion whereby the swing gets too wide, the bottom of the arc is too far back, the club's rotating. So we've got our model. Can we do that? Now, having kind of worked out how to coordinate that, I would then ask you just to tilt that down into a more kind of golf-like circle. So if that's a sort of baseball style move, can we tilt that down to the golf swing angle? So we've got to square the club without using that right arm to kind of climb over and swoosh. So same idea then. If there's a circle drill in a more advanced manner, how does that work down to the ball? Okay, that's starting to feel a bit more familiar to me and look more like what I'd expect to impact. Next up then, I'd invite you to hit a few shots. So once you kind of got the feel of the pattern, let's see if we can hit a few shots. And like anything, you're better off learning any kind of changes in the swing a little bit slower, building awareness and feel. So I've got a pitching wedge. I'm just going to hit some very gentle shots, maybe half or three-quarter swing. Okay, so I'm getting away from swooshing and turning the club over in that manner and thinking more about that more sort of baseball style pattern. Now, as you go through that exercise, hitting those soft wedges, you'll notice that in order to move the club that way, there's certain things that are required from your body motion, and they are these. So as I'm hitting those shots, I'm very aware that in order to not have that right arm kind of swoosh out and straighten, I have to stay down, I need to keep my chest turning through the ball, and I need to stay in posture a little bit longer through the shot. Any kind of standing up through the ball with the pelvis moving forwards, well, that's going to lead to the club swooshing out and the arm turning over. Any lack of rotation, again, the club will overtake you. These are all movements that are going to take you right the way back to square one with that L to L swooshy pattern. Now, for me, one of the most impactful parts of taking on this process is to recognise that, even on those small shots, that we can actually square the club without having to throw that trail arm and get the club kind of turning over in this aggressive manner. By doing the exercise, you will learn very quickly that if I can essentially make that movement as I turn, rotate the lead arm, then I don't need to be getting into these patterns that cause the steepness and over the top, etc. Learning to square the club in an optimum manner will change everything. And then, of course, you'd build it up into bigger swings. So we've hit some three-quarter wedges. This is a 7-iron. Back to our drill here. Okay, swooshy, arm climbing over. Let's do it in a better manner. Can I rotate a bit? Can I keep that arm bent and twist the arms instead of throwing the club? That looks more like that. And now we can hit some full 7-irons. Now, when you look at elite players move, and even in some of those swings that I made there, you may well see that the arms do cross over in the through swing. They rotate and the wrists hinge, and it may look very much like an L to L pattern. But back to our conversation with Dr. Mark Bull, although the arms are turning over, the player isn't turning the arms over, not actively anyway. So at the beginning of that journey, we're trying to sort of turn the arms over to square the club face, but as we get better and better at this game, it's the slowing of the handle as we turn the body that then gets the club to accelerate past us, and that then turns our arms over for us. So it's more like it's the club that's turning our arms over, not us actually turning the club over, and that is a really big distinction. Okay, let's bring this to a close. If you are a player who feels like you don't rotate through the ball very well, and your impact looks a lot like you're set up but with your arms straight, then all the answers are there in that simple drill. Just recognize that pattern of throwing the right arm and swooshing it past you, and then can you make that distinction and be able to return to impact in our drill form with a square face, shaft lean, and a slightly bent trail right arm. And if you can then learn to slowly through drills, take that into your swing and into ball hitting. That is going to make a huge difference to your ball striking.